Hey guys, welcome back to Voice Bootcamp. My name is Faisal Khan, and in this video, we're going to demonstrate how to deploy Amazon Connect. Now, if you have watched some of the previous videos, you have got an overview about what Amazon Connect is, what kind of contact centers its capabilities are. Now, we're going to focus on how to actually deploy one. Now, deploying Amazon Connect is pretty straightforward. At first, you need an Amazon Connect or AWS account. Once you have the AWS account and necessary permissions, you can easily deploy an Amazon Connect contact center in a matter of few minutes. So first thing we're going to look at is how to create an Amazon Connect instance. We're going to create a very basic contact center, test the voice call, set up your telephone numbers, create any outbound communications to ensure that you can route them. We will set up a very basic routing agent and some of the tasks. So these are some of the stuff that you can do with Amazon Connect per se. Now, when you create an Amazon Connect instance, you're going to need to specify how you want to set your identity. Now, step one is to set up an identity when you initiate an Amazon Connect setup. Permissions to access Amazon Connect features and the resources that are assigned to the user account within your Amazon Connect. Now, when you create an instance, you must decide how you want to manage your users. This including the user accounts, for day-to-day administration, supervisors, as well as your agent. Now, once you define that, you can't change the identity management option after you create the instance. So, if you want to integrate it with your Active Directory, make that decision now. It's very important because once you deploy it, you can't change that option. Second step is to add an administrator. After you specify the username for your administrator for Amazon Connect instance, a user account is created within Amazon Connect and the user will be assigned with an admin security profile. Once we define the admin security profile or the administrative account, next step is to set up a telephony where you use this option to make a decision whether you want to enable inbound or outbound calls. Now, you also can define your early media. Early media is when you hear a media audio is enabled, your outbound calls, your agent can hear a pre-connection audio, such as busy signals or failure to connect errors or any other informational messages. Now, by default, early media is enabled for you. Now, although it is enabled for you with some exceptions. Now, to configure a telephony option for your instance, you need to decide whether you want to allow inbound call to your contact center. So you want to check allow incoming call. If you want to provide outgoing call for your agent or telemarketing, or you want to build a contact center for your, let's say, survey type of business, you need to enable outbound call options. Now, to enable multi-party calls, you can enable up to 6 parties in a particular call, like a kind of like a conferencing. Now, next step after you define the telephony stage is to define your storage. Now, this is where all your logs related to Amazon Connect recording will be stored. Now, you can create an instance by default. It will create your S3 bucket, or you can choose an existing bucket by choosing and customize and select an existing one you might have. Now, the data, things such as reports, recording of the conversations are automatically encrypted using the AWS key management and then stored into S3 bucket. You can choose the default key or you can choose your own key based on your requirement. All right. So first, let's go and build a new Amazon Connect instance. And once we create our instance, we will learn how to configure them. So first thing, when you log into your AWS account, go to Amazon Connect. You may make sure that you log in. So once you log in, if notice there is no Amazon Connect created, we're going to add a new instance. It's going to ask you to define your identity. Store users in Amazon connect to an existing directory. Now, if you have, I already have an existing directory, I can choose that one. And what's going to happen is it's going to use that particular directory for storing my user accounts. Now, if you are going to use an existing directory, make sure that you have a proper access to it. So let's go and open my directory. So this is my corporate directory, as you can see. It's a very simple. Now, for the purpose of this particular lab, I'm not going to use my existing directory. You can also use a SAML authentication. Currently, it is not set up. So I'm going to use my store users in your Amazon Connect. Now, in subsequent videos later in advanced sections, I'm going to show you how to use your existing directory for that matter. Now, you do need to specify your alias. Now, I'm going to try Voice Bootcamp. It may not work because I've already used it before. So let's see if it's going to work. Okay, it says, do you want to specify an administrator? You can go with no administrator, but I would like to specify an administrator with an AFCON and my regular password and an email address. Now, whether it's going to create or not, we'll find out soon because I have already assigned that alias before. Okay, did not like my password. Okay, now this is where you set the telephony, right? Whether you want an inbound or outbound. If you have nothing to do with outbound call, let's say your agent will never call outbound, or you're not going to do telemarketing or survey, you're not going to do an outbound campaign, then you may want to uncheck that. One of the advantage of unchecking it, if these features are not enabled, is that you don't accidentally have the system calling international numbers and you end up getting billed for it, right? So inbound call most likely will be free, or at least it'll be cheaper than the outbound call. Now, for the purpose of this lab, I'm going to make it enable outgoing call as well as inbound. So once you have that, this is where you specify the data storage. Now, data storage is basically where it creates all your logs, reports, conversations, stuff like that. Now, you notice that this is a bucket that's going to create. Now, I have many Amazon Connect bucket created because I've been practicing it. I could choose to customize it if I want to. Instead of because I have the option to customize it, what I can do is I can put a little prefix. If I'm going to run a multiple contact center, I may want to put a little prefix to that if I want to, or I can just simply say, nope, I don't want to run any customized storage. Let it create the one automatically. Let's click next. So this is basically a summary of what's about to create. You can always copy all these informations for your documentation purposes. Feel free to do that at your requirement. Now it's telling me that instance already exists, so I cannot create that one. So I'm going to have to create a new one. So I'm going to say VBC pod. Let's try that. Okay, so now it is being set up for VBC pod. So one of the problem with the AWS is that anytime you create an instance with any name, and if you delete it, chances are you might lose that. You cannot reuse that name again. So Voice Bootcamp is one of them. Had I knew it, I probably would not have used that. Anyway, it's going to take about a few minutes for this instance to create. So let's wait until then, and we'll take a quick break. Okay, so you can see VBC pod instance has been created. Now I can access the instance configuration related to the instance itself, or actually the portal that allows me to do the day-to-day administration. So here you'll see two sections. So you got the instance alias, where if you click on this name VBC pod, it's going to take you to a set of configuration that basically designed for the entire instance that you've created. So for example, I can change my telephony settings if I want to enable outbound campaign. I can use particular key for encryptions. I'll go ahead and save that. And if I need to change my data storage, I could do so here. Again, we will learn how to enable some of these features as we go through. Any flows that you might have with your bot, you can check some of these configurations. Okay. So going back to our Amazon Connect VBC pod, If we click on this little URL, it will take me to the configuration page for where I do my day-to-day administration. Okay, so this is where I am. So next step, of course, is to create our phone numbers, configure, queues, routing profile, and all those other stuff. So next step, either you port your existing number or claim a new number in your country. You can claim phone numbers that you have already owned in another country if you want to, as long as you can prove that you are the owner of it. So after you create instance, these are some of the steps that you want to take. Now, if you want to keep your phone number that you already have, you can port that number into Amazon Connect. After your number is ported to Amazon Connect, it appears in the list of available phone numbers for you to assign to your flow. Now, porting a number is a process which of moving a phone number from one telephony service provider or carrier to another one. And many business and organizations already have phone numbers, so you may have to do this at some point in your career. Now, in general, the Amazon Connect does not charge you for these porting numbers. Your existing carrier may, however, have a fee associated with that disconnection. So based on your agreement, contract that you might have, so you may have to pay that. But Amazon Connect itself will not charge you for that. However, one thing you have to keep in mind, not all numbers can be ported. Your ability to port a specific phone number will depend on several factors, such as regulatory of that particular connect countries, agreement that you have with your service providers. Maybe they will prevent that from happening, type of phone numbers that are being ported, and of course, your service contract with your current service provider. Now, the amount of time it takes to port your number will depend on country and service provider as well, and the complexity of request, type, and quantity of your numbers being ported. For example, if you're in North America, Canada, and US, typically it takes anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks to port a number. And after the number portability has been verified, all the required documents has been correctly submitted to the courier, only then it will start the process. Number that are outside of North Canada and US may require anywhere between 2 months to 6 months to complete, depending on the country's regulations. Now, for outbound communication, you can send outbound communication to your customers for a variety of reasons. As I mentioned, either is an appointment reminder, subscription renewal. You can call them for debt collections if you are in that business. Amazon Connect does provide both normal and high volume outbound campaign capability. However, you will be charged for minute use and various other factors that might be involved. Now, once you make an outbound call, it always recommended that you set your caller ID, because certain countries may have a regulation that they want to see who the person is calling. So you don't want to call a number and then your name doesn't show up, because that may go against the regulatory policy. So a lot of time what happens is your service provider or your local telecommunication rules might force you to make sure that your caller ID is set to your company's name and your phone number that will appear. The reason why you want to do that is that because sometimes you make calls to customers or potential prospect and they do not recognize the number. They may end up flagging your number as a spam, which may end up cost you business in the long term. Now, this outbound caller ID is usually can be set on the queue. You can set an outbound caller ID by changing your set in the queue command. So when you go and edit your queue, there will be option called outbound caller ID name. So this is where you put your company name and then you put your company's phone number. Now, you may have to open an AWS support ticket to register your US-based phone number for your company name in the CNAME database of the Amazon Connect couriers. Now, of course, they will handle the process, and it may take anywhere between 30 days for caller ID and name to be propagated within the database. If it's not, sometimes the carrier will not carry that caller ID name for you. Now, to enable your outbound calls, I've shown you that you can go to your instance. You can select this name alias to enable that feature. You can create a campaign for outbound, select a particular call flow as well as a queue that you need to allocate for outbound dialing. So these are some of the settings that you need to configure. Now, we're not going to do any of this stuff at this stage. I'm going to just quickly show you how to define it. Once your caller ID phone numbers has been allocated, your next step will be setting up routing. Now, routing is where the call will go into when an incoming call comes in. Routing process consists of three different parts. You got the queue, the routing profile, and the contact flow. The queue is basically where the call will be held, waiting for an agent if an agent is not available, or select an agent from that particular queue. You can specify a single queue to handle all incoming call, or you can set up a multiple queues with a more granular control. Queues, on the other hand, are linked to agent through the routing profile. So if you want me to be part of a sales queue, so the routing profile that you assign to my account should be part of the should contain the sales queue as part of the association. So when you linked an agent with a routing profile, you are creating a routing profile where you specify the queue the agent must belong to, whether one queue should be prioritized over the other. These are some of the settings that you must enable in your routing profile. So once you add a routing queue, you can define your basic hours, like what hours will the queue be available. If your business runs Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., then you want to have a business hours called weekdays. But if your contact center is 24/7, 7 days a week, then you make another office hours that is running 24/7. You specify your caller ID. You can set the number of contact that can wait in the queue. So here you can see the method number is set to 9. You can make it 10, 20, depending on your configurations. You can define some quick connect. We'll talk about quick connect later. Then in the security profile, make sure that user have the privilege for accessing queues. And then you create the queue that you want. Now you can edit a queue, set a limit to it. You can define your operation hours by selecting appropriate number of hours that you need. You create a routing profile. In the routing profile, as you can see here, you define a basic queue or a different queue you might have. For example, you may have a basic queue and then advanced queue. And you might say basic queue can only handle voice call, but advanced queue can handle all 4 channels if you want to. And for advanced queue, you define the priority to be 2, so that call will always come to basic queue first before it goes to the advanced queue in that scenario. Now, when you set up an agent, you can define agent with some permissions. Make sure the agent does have permissions, and agent should have status. Now, agent status is usually when they log in. By default, they're going to be in offline. They have to be in available mode in order for them to receive a call. You can change the name of this value to anything you want. You can call it Eagle and Panther. Doesn't matter. As long as you know which one does what, and that should be enough. Now, you also can configure some additional features that we can talk about more details as we go through this course. For example, auto accept calls. If your profile associated with auto accept, that means when a call comes in, as long as I'm available, the call will come and I'm being selected as a part of an agent, call will come to my phone automatically and it will get auto answer. You can specify after work timeout. So let's say I hung up the call with a customer. It's going to give me 60 seconds to wrap up the previous call, maybe take a note, maybe sip a cup of coffee or a drink of water, whatever. And within the 60 seconds, I can do any of this task. After 60 seconds, I'll be back to the queue. So these are some of the stuff that you must configure before you go live. Now, auto accept calls will be less than 1 second. It will either accept or reject the call. Auto accept call does not work for callback. And to confirm that auto accept call is enabled for an agent, you want to download the CCP log generate to ensure that it is working the way it should. All right, so these are some of the stuff that we want to do. So let's go take a look at how to claim our phone numbers. So once you log in, you'll notice here, claim your phone numbers. I'm going to begin. Now, sometimes you may get a warning saying that you have reached the maximum number you can claim. So that could be depending on your account. If your account is brand new and you're doing this too many times, you can get flagged. Now, my account, I've been using it for 3 years now, and it does have enough history of payment so that they know that I'm good to go. Now, I'm going to choose United States. I will choose a toll-free number. and then I have the options here. Now you want to choose a number that is easy to remember. Now you don't unfortunately get a lot of choices here. So I'm going to choose probably last number makes sense. So if you get an error message, that's what you may have to, if you get an error message saying you have reached the maximum capacity of phone numbers, at that moment, you may have to open an account with a support ticket with AWS to allow you to create an account. All right, so my account is created. It may take a few minutes for this for this number to get activated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dial in from my phone.
Hello, thanks for calling. These are some examples of what the Amazon
Okay, so you can see an Amazon Connect contact center is ready to go for my account, and it did not even take me more than 5 minutes to build it. As easy it is. So that's it for how to build your own contact center, cloud contact center on Amazon Connect. Until then, I'll see you in the next video.